Happy to be again in this talk show, The Point. And again, we're happy to be with our dear guests, Honorable Banzachi Henry, the former Member of Parliament, Rwanda West, whom we always recall as Ntunguka, and is still Ntunguka Development. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you.
We're also again happy to be with the Honorable Oneka Lead, Dennis Ameri, the Member of Parliament of Kitgum Municipality. He is the only man of the Northern Uganda and Kitgum. Sir, you're welcome again in this studio.
Thank you very much.
Dear viewers, we have, before we move forward, we have a good topic. And that's why we are referring it as The Point. And we are interacting with many people, stakeholders in this country, and we felt as Smart 24 TV to bring this topic of discussion for purpose of teaching and informing, and yet also propose possible solutions. But all that to drive us to support the ideal of economic growth and how we can have sustainable economic development of our country. I am Dr. Joseph Tindieba once again in this program as the host, and the topic is, does the call for constitutional review solve Uganda's economic and political challenges? Dear viewers, welcome back again from your work and others who are still doing work. Smart 24 TV support business, and we call upon you bring business. We continue to applaud people to work hard. And the purpose of our topic is not only politicking. We believe, indeed, as per analytical point of view, that we cannot have a sustainable economy if there are challenges of legislative gaps. A country can be sustainable to advance in development when there are enabling environment, a legal framework which is supporting business to operate. And in other circumstances, where a country has challenges of the legal framework, especially the constitution, that can gear towards instability. And instability of a country means a destruction of every wealth they have been able to invest in. And I will not take long to bring this exposition to us, but the report which I was able to obtain, 2017, by 2017, which was published by Edris Chigundu, refers the amendment of the Constitution of Uganda for around 65 articles. From time to time, we've been going through these amendments. And those are articles of the Constitution which have been amended, among others, because that's what 2017. In our discussion, dear viewers and guests, we are mindful of both some of the amendments which are politically motivated. But again, even those which are politically motivated, there is always a financial implication. I'm happy, and the viewers are happy, that we are giving information to the viewers, especially on this panel where I have members of parliament. And if an amendment is to be accepted, as you recall, and myself as I recall, then there must be an approval that there was a cost implication of this. So there is no cost implication. There is no, we call it a certificate of no cost of implication, meaning it's affordable. But all in all, some of the major amendments that included a referendum which was carried on during 2000, and there are others which were major, especially which a bit caused some, a bit of chaos. The one of 2005, some of the direct giving out of cash in mobilization to those who could support the removal of age limit. That one, that's where we refer, part of it. And also the removal of term limit, rather, which again, of 2017, also, of course, the state, and whether we say individuals, but all that was public resources, a lot of money was spent. At times, there is when this expenditure, in most cases indeed, it affects production. Ugandans, we have had time when we spend much more in politicking, and which leaders spend much more money. Political parties are calling for constitutional review. I've heard of recent, the NRM political group, there's a certain political group is also calling for constitutional amendment. It means there is a crisis. Of recent and of which period we are still in, we were able even to find out that the way how the constitution was promulgated, even in the guidance when we lose a speaker, that was done in a manner that was not catering our culture and our values. So that means that we are, much as we used to say that we have the best constitution, but our constitution calls for review. How best can we address this challenge? Does the call for constitutional review solve Uganda both economic and political challenge? Honorable Banenzachi, please. The floor is yours. Can talk to the viewers.
Thank you very much, Doctor. This discussion is really a tough discussion, and it calls for national consensus and national participation, because review of constitution is not an either one. Yes, if we want to say we want to achieve stability, we want to achieve an investment climate, drive business as Smart 24 says, and have good governance. Yes, I think there's nothing wrong with revisiting the constitution, as long as it is revisited transparently and in a sober way and tackling the issues. The biggest challenge that we have in this country now, normally when we come to elections, that's when the country goes to the frames, that's when there is electoral violence, when there is commercialization, monetization of the politics. That's when people get, let's send this one also to go and eat. People seem not to understand what the constitution means. That's when, for example, the term limits came in. That's when the age limits come in. That's when the constitution is touched. Jikwateko, tojikwatako, that kind of stuff. But definitely, for example, we have come to realize that really, like for example, if we talk about electoral violence has been fired up by the presidential elections, not parliamentary. Because at parliamentary level, councillorship level, LC5 level, people understand each other. But at the presidential level, there is really an unrest of the highest order. And that's why there is a section of some cadres within the NRM. It's good that's coming from the cadres of NRM. We are saying that it's time we stop this electoral violence. How do we stop it? They are saying maybe if the president is elected by the parliament and it's a hybrid, maybe you bring in even some maybe local governments, then there wouldn't be electoral violence. So they want to ensure that. They also want to ensure the kind of the money that's being powered in the presidential elections to a tune of trillions. So they want to see that money could be saved for something else. They want to ensure this commercialization. It may be a far-fetching solution, but it attempts to diagnose the problem and see where is the problem. How can we give the solution? So the debate is for Ugandans to decide. And that's why they have said, okay, they even come up to say that let's have term limits, which is good to me.
To bring back term limits.
Term limits are good.
And then the one who is
restore term limits,
okay,
and restore it within the constitution. Yes, President Museveni is there and has benefited out of it. But do you know the next person who is going to come, how he will behave? The term limits were opened. They said, we still need President Museveni. Do you know how the next one is going to behave? And even if he behaved well anyway. In America, we had presidents like Obama. I remember when he was in the EU, he told them, if he offered himself, he would have won. But he can't offer himself again. The constitution bars him. Sure. So that is the maturity of democracy. Look across Kenya. Uhuru Kenyatta is a very good president by any standards. He is a good president, but he's not offering himself back again because of the term limits. So the life continues on. When you go to Tanzania, when they proposed that, go to South Africa. We have President Mandela could have come, but Mandela served one term and say, I'm tired, move on. If we go to Tanzania, the Chikwetis, the Who's, Ali Hassan Mwinyi, when anybody attempted to say, they said it was, they said actually the person who was proposing it was even fired because he was bringing instability within the country. So there are those kind of clauses that even need to be entrenched. And that's why there is that call, can we re-entrench those good clauses? If we are talking about good, in the Constitution, we had a clause of regional tie. Because you see, regional tie is good. When you talk about if you have a regional government in northern Uganda, regional government in western Uganda, regional government in Uganda, regional government in the east, you can even have like say 10 regional government. And then there will be regional development spurred by the regional governments. And then they will be having their regional parliaments. And then they would come to the central, at the parliament, at the national level. And where you have at the national level, concentrating too much power to the national level, you devolve the power to the lower levels. We are talking about having a Senate. Why should we have 500, 600 members of parliament? Huh? When will they ever discuss and listen to each other? And at the end of the day, even when they come with things which are not tangible, and then you have a cabinet which is 80, and my president is saying this is a cabinet of fishermen. He was also saying, mocking his own cabinet. You get?
I thought that so if saying fishermen is meaning those who are ready to work.
No. They are just, when you are fishing on the lake and you are casting a net, you are just gambling.
You pick any size.
You pick any size. You are gambling. You are not sure whether you are going to get a catch or not.
You might even
so for me, I got it from that perspective.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't know what you are going. Just say, You are going just gambling. So when you have a parliament, which is a good size, and then you have a Senate, which will receive what has come out from parliament, those are good proposals. You see, those are very good proposals to take care of the good governance, to take care of checking the powers and checking the powers of the president, you know, to spur regional development, to bring in this governance. I think if we revisited it, we may find out that even this constitution does not adequately cover on how we should deal with this corruption, the most of corruption. Much as we have these courts and what, but you can see how the mafias have challenged whatever reports that have come out of court, and they have gone out of that. So to me, revisiting the constitution transparently, in a fair manner, that would drive us to good governance and spur the economic development, and ensure those loopholes, and not necessarily having, again, you come and say that you are going for a referendum and then you are just throwing money to the population. It becomes an opportunity. You commercialize to vote your yes or to get your yes or no. So to me, it does well, as long as it is a national consensus, national dialogue. We have all agreed on what we want to achieve. If it means by constitution, by referendum, well and good. But the referendum is very expensive. So if it is going to be done fairly and transparently, the parliament can amend the constitution without going even to referendum.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
And you've referred to most of the events which are political events, and indeed which led to the amendment of the constitution in that line, and others being proposed. But as Smart 24 television, we look at some of other laws. Some are referred as Act of Parliament, which were enacted by the Parliament. and others, they are also contained in that process of amendment. Our concern in the process of amendment, a lot of money is being spent.
Why?
There was, for instance, the Act of Parliament on petroleum. You were a good better advocate of petroleum, and one time
transparency,
and you called for petroleum
exactly
not to be a curse,
yes,
but a blessing.
Yes.
You know, we were ardent followers.
Absolutely.
Step by step.
We're advocates of transparency.
Very much.
In extractive industries.
Very much. And by that time, you had a bigger group and were saying maybe things are going to happen. Because, you know, when you're in parliament, you are the voice. I always tell my brother here, you are the voice of the voiceless.
Yes.
And later, a law was passed. Because our citizens are asking, and may I bring these topics, basically they get information and maybe also advocate what they should advocate for as citizens. Mm-hmm. What happened with this act, especially where it reached on a point that you cannot, that those who go into concession agreements, especially those who enter into dealing those private entrepreneurs dealing with the government concession agreements, they cannot even be shown the parliament, they cannot even be at all published in any way to be known. I think that law, such a law much as it was enacted, but it does a disservice to the economic transparency of the country. That's what I think.
I don't think so.
I don't know. Maybe you can give us your view.
There is one thing of making a law, and there is another issue of implementing the law that has been passed by the parliament. And in that law, I remember we insisted on transparency, transparency of extractive industries. These are mining and royalties, etc. But the problem is that you make a law and the implementation become a problem. And these laws which are enacted may come sometimes from the mother constitution, because the constitution is the mother law. And then the acts which are coming up,
supreme.
Yes, are being enacted out of to operationalize that was within the constitution. So the transparency in this extractive industry is key. And I remember even we were advocating for access to information, like we made Access to Information Act. That law of Access to Information Act, you can use the Access to Information Act to get any information that is within the custody of the state. But sometimes you want to get information, it becomes very difficult. They don't want to give you that information. And we're also advocating for publishing the agreements that are done within the oil industry and accessibility. I remember it was a tug of war for us to force the minister then to table those extractive industries. Actually, in our debate, it even opened my eyes to the extent that we challenged the World Bank at that time to have an open policy. World Bank,
open policy,
where I went to have a discussion, where I went to on a panel of 4 with the MD of World Bank, the MD of IMF, and the 6th richest man at that time, Sir George Soros, and I was the first representing the parliamentarians in the world. And we first World Bank, an open policy. Anything that World Bank has discussed today, you can access it. And this is how government should operate. I should be able to know what has the cabinet discussed today. What secretary are you discussing when you are discussing the matter that touch me? A citizen should be able to access the Hansard, that is the record of parliament.
Including the agreements we are talking about.
Everything. When you do an agreement on behalf of the people of Uganda, why do you hide them that kind of contents of that agreement?
So to why do you
the citizens should have access to know how are you committing them. If you get a loan from the World Bank, citizens should know that you have gotten a loan. Because you are getting that loan on behalf of people of Uganda. Who will pay that loan? That loan is not being got by the minister who is signing it. He is signing on behalf of the people. Parliament is approving that loan on behalf of the people.
Okay.
So why shouldn't the citizens, the Wananchi, know what the public is discussing. Sometimes you go in these ministries, you ask a policy statement, they just keep it and say, first get permission from the PS or the minister. Why would the ministry be cagey with its policy statement, which is a public document? So much as we are going into e-government, sometimes there haven't even been this publication on how citizens can access that information. So it is very paramount, it is very important that the information that is within the state, the citizens get access to it.
So should we go for litigation to collect that? Because I think it is against the constitutional provision, especially for that freedom of access to information.
Maybe, let me qualify this statement, if that kind of information is a security threat by any nature, if you are intelligence, you know where the ADF is, what, and you are following them, that is decoded information. But it's as information of developing.
So now can now be concessional agreements require such a level of secrecy?
What secrecy are you doing in those agreements?
Fine, thank you so much.
What secrecy are you doing with in these agreements where you are, let me say, where you are committing the public national assets? What is the?
So it is a gap. It is a challenge. Maybe Honorable Nakalita, you will help us because for sure up to date, some of these laws that we are touching, because we are relating with some of these laws, the implication they have on the economic growth. Because at the end of it all, it's a question which goes in a country what we refer to as corporate governance. Corporate governance, there must be a respect of transparency and accountability. And our laws, some of them, they have led to, especially led to public misuse of funds. What we intend to achieve, we don't achieve it. But now, leaving that aside, I come to you, Honorable Onekalit Dennis Amere. We look at, since 1995, a constitutional review commission by then time, which was led by Professor Frederick, am I right?
Sempebwa.
Frederick Sempebwa, and a team of those professional lawyers. To enact this Constitution of the Republic of Uganda in 1995, it was through thorough consultation. But along the way, as I stated it, I state it again, 65 articles have been amended. Some, they justify that maybe it was right. Others, they say no. Some were amended, those which were politically motivated to benefit either some individual or an individual. That one, we will look at that. But yet again, since then up to where we are, including the recommendation of the Supreme Court in the perspective of politics, especially electoral democracy, it has been found out the Supreme Court of 2001, the presidential petition ruling of 2001, another of 2006, then 2016, it refers part of the electoral laws and the constitution in that regard to determine a fair and free process requires amendment, and they have always directed the executive take it up. But to the best of my knowledge, this has been hitting a snag. And again, there are other challenges that this constitution needs to sort out, including its recent, I quote this, the president, when they were electing the speaker here at Kororo State, where you were, the grounds, it was stated that no, this constitution needs to suit the needs of Ugandans, not to copy and paste of the Commonwealth and the Commonwealth kind of, proposals or constitutional framework, basically. So what is your take? How can we have a stable, a solid constitution, maybe this time around as it is being proposed, that is going to promise us a stable economic and politically stable Uganda?
Yeah, thank you very much, my brother,
yes,
Dr.
Sir.
Joseph.
Yes, sir.
First and foremost, I would like to wish a happy belated birthday.
Oh yeah.
To my senior brother,
Yes,
Honorable.
I celebrated my birthday yesterday.
Oh, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I would like to begin by thanking very much the management of Smart 24 TV for giving us the opportunity this evening to talk to our citizens of this country on matters of national importance, on matters of constitutionalism, on matters that can address our well-being as a country. Going back to the real topic, Dr. Joseph.
Yes, sir.
Does the call for constitutional amendment address the challenge of politics in this country?
And the economy.
It is yes, if there is goodwill. It can address if there is goodwill. Does the call for constitutional amendment address the economic challenges in this country? Yes, if there is goodwill. But above all, I would like to begin by saying that there is only one person who will be the barrier of a realistic constitutional amendment or review in this country at the moment as we talk, and that is the president himself. Why do I say so? There are precedents that has been set that the president himself interferes a lot in the amendment of the promulgated Constitution of 1995. Interferes a lot.
There's an objection to that. Some people give, they say it's not the one who enacts, that's members of parliament. I don't know.
Because I would say he interferes simply because he has a lot of influence to the NRM members of parliament who are the majority. So I would like to say that, to begin by saying that the 1995 Constitution, the way it was made, was good. Even though it had some, actually it has up to now, some loopholes, some areas of contestation. There are certain clauses that has been put in that Constitution that were not law, that were not properly entrenched. For example, like the presidential term limit. Those are very critical sections within the Constitution of this country that would have been properly tied so that the amendment could not easily be done by any interested president, sitting president. Let me give you an example that that is why the Constitution of Uganda really deserved to have an amendment. One is the presidential term limit. The presidential term limit was put in the 1995 Constitution for a reason. And when you look at the preamble of the 1995 Constitution, it was clearly stipulated that, looking at the history of Uganda's politics, categorized with a lot of instability, it was clearly put there. So the term limit was actually put to debar any sitting president that would have more interest beyond the interest of the country, to serve at least 2 terms and leave. But when that term limit was removed, problem began in Uganda. Problem began serious in the country because that was the hope that the citizen of this country had, knowing very well that after 2 terms, President Museveni would hand over power peacefully. And that did not happen. And when the term limit was removed, was it in 2005? In 2005, when term limit was removed, even within the NRM itself, succession has become a problem. Look at the trend of people who would have been prodigal sons to replace Museveni within NRM circle. They have been victimized, others have been arrested. Look at Dr. Besigye. In 2001, when he came with deviated from the broad base, something of the kind, some concept, some Pepe Road, against the mismanagement of this country, he was actually arrested. He was kicked out of government.
I'm not diverting you, Honorable, but I want to ask you this question. Does the removal of term limit affect our economy? Because some of our, what I call, let me put them in one class. Some of our citizens, they say that if they remove term limit, but they remain peaceful and they enjoying, doing business, there's no problem. How do you bridge that gap of understanding, especially to bridge the issue of economic growth of this country apart from the political?
I was coming to that. I was just building the introduction.
You can go on, sir.
Definitely the removal of term limit, presidential term limit, brings a lot of instability in this country. And that is why I'm trying to cite the example of the kind of victimization that has been given to possible people who would have taken over power to bring on board new and fresh leadership that the country might appreciate or not appreciate. I gave an example of how Besigye was victimized. Let me give another example on Professor Gilbert Bukenya, the former vice president. When the gentleman began gaining popularity, he even started walking like Museveni. He brought in Bukenya's rise. He was gaining popularity in the country. He was victimized. He started calling himself the Morgan, political Morgan. The man was victimized and arrested on sight. Look at Amama Mbabazi. Amama Mbabazi, who was called by NRM as the super minister. You get it? When all of us in this country, we thought maybe Museveni would hand over to Amama Mbabazi. But because the gentleman in the name of the President Museveni, because he doesn't want to leave power, anybody who crosses the line, you can eat if you're in cabinet, but don't eat beyond what you're being given. You get the problem. So the removal of the presidential term limit has caused a lot of problem in this country. Leave alone that, leave alone the presidential term limit. Go to Article 102B. The Tojikwatako battle of 2017. I was not in parliament by that time, but I led a delegation of colleagues who stood for MPs in 2016 but lost election. We called ourselves Alternative Leadership Platform. I led that delegation before the legal committee, or both.
So
to disagree with the Article 102 intended amendment that they wanted to remove, actually the age limit that they wanted to remove. I led that delegation. So when you look at the removal of Article 102B from the Constitution, which was the age limit, that was the only valve that was left for this country to have hope that indeed when President Museveni clocked 75 years, he would leave power, another person would come on board. To me, the biggest problem at the moment is the Musevenism that has come in this country, because everything has been patronized. There's a lot of corruption, and some of the corrupt officials are family members who are untouchable in this country. So the issues of constitutional amendment can only be done, can only be done in goodwill if there is a new president on board.
When there's a new president.
Only when there's a new president.
Can't we do them when he's still around?
I don't think, because with evidence that we have seen, with the kind of lies that we have seen, we have known that the gentleman is ready not to leave power.
Really? I have a question for you, sir, as you finish your...
When you look at from 2001 election, when he stood in 2001, he gave one of the reasons in his manifesto that he wants to continue being the president of this country, so that he tries the constitution, the newly put on place constitution, that was the 1995 constitution, whether it is working well for this country. In 2006, when he came, one of the reasons he gave us, the people of Acholi, was that I want to kick out corn, so give me votes. So in 2011, that I want to remove poverty in this country. So every election, it comes with new changes. It comes with new statements. And every election, the moment election elapses immediately, the gentleman, Mr. Museveni, begins thinking about the next election.
I have a question for you. It is true that...
Let me give this example.
Yes.
When you look at in 2004, when the discussion about the removal of the term limit came on board, because he wanted to contest again, he has served 2 terms. So to open his way, they had to remove the term limit. He served. Then in 2017, when he was about to clock the 75 age, which some was believe he was already 75 by that time, when he wanted to contest again in 2021, he had to...
So what do you think is next going to be the...
It is hard to predict.
But
Can I predict for you?
They want to
You know, there is
to
one
say
which says
parliament
that
should vote.
50 plus 1.
Uh-huh.
50 plus 1.
You-
It's likely that in the next election that we are going to come, there is no single party that may get 50 plus 1.
Can imagine.
So that one, your constitution, your parliament should be prepared to amend that.
50 plus 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have that constitutional provision which says
Yeah, the 50 plus.
you have to win
With
by 50 plus 1.
in order to become.
But these percentages are keeping on dwindling and parties are becoming many. So there may be a likely proposal to say that, you know what, a winner, let the winner take it all. We don't need to get 50 or whether we get 40 or what. And there are some countries who are doing that. So my brother, Honorable, should be prepared for that. But I'm not advocating for it.
Yes,
Yeah,
I am not advocating for that kind of.
You have mentioned that.
Yeah. I'm not advocating for it. It's not a good one. 50 plus 1 should stay. But the way I look things going on now,
In addition to.
and with my giraffe eye of the Nani, you may end up having that kind of stuff.
In addition to that, of course, we have heard from speculation.
And you know the other problem which we are having, what honor we are talking about, this amendment of the Constitution. Yes, you are right. There must be goodwill, transparency, and there must be equity. All those principles and values and must be considered. But the problem, like for example, I'm talking that 50 plus 1 I'm talking about. In the event that it is targeted, it comes with empiricism.
So dear guests, let's go this way. We are about to go for a break, and I want to give a question to Honorable Dennis. And you know, you've articulated with passion about the political implication, especially the challenging moments which we are in. But as we will come back from the break, there is a question I would like to leave with us pondering on. And one, China is a communist. They have the president, they have their party, but their economy is growing. Why is it that for us here, the issue of electioneering, presidential constitutional amendment, the president has touched this, is want to remain in power, yet there is that difference.
China is not corrupt.
Okay, let's go for the break. We come back again. We shall, continue from that.
It's a corrupt-free nation.